So we're going to start our life in the clouds. And in the clouds, the next thing that's going to happen is, so from the clouds, the water is going to condense and it's going to fall onto the soil. And so we are going to go to the soil. So now that we've fallen to the soil, what's going to happen next to us? Well, that soil is so saturated, so full of water that it doesn't sink in. Instead, it runs off into a river. And so what's going to happen to the water once it's in the river? That water is going to end up flowing into the ocean, all right? So now that that water is in the ocean, what's the next thing that's going to happen to it? Well, the thing about the ocean is there's not a whole lot that can happen to it. There's only two things. Either it can stay there, or the only way it can leave is that it's going to evaporate. All right, and when it evaporates, it's going to go to the, and it's going to go to the clouds, all right, where we've been before. From here, we're going to, well, that water in the cloud is going to fall as snow, and it's going to become part of a glacier. And once at the glacier, what's going to happen to that water? That water in the form of ice is going to melt, and that melted water is going to flow back into a river, all right? And once in the river, it's going to be consumed by an animal. So an animal is going to drink that water, and so therefore it's going to become, okay, once the animal drinks the water, it's going to become part of the animal. So what's the animal going to do with that water? That animal is going to do, just like you might guess, it's going to pee, all right? We'll just say, since this is a science class, we're going to say that water is excreted, all right? And when that animal excretes that water in the form of its urine, it's going to go to the soil, all right? And what's going to happen to that water once it's in the soil? That water is going to be absorbed through the roots of a plant into the plant. So that water is now part of a plant. What is that plant going to do with the water? It's going to leave that plant by transpiration, and after that, it's going to go back to the clouds. Once it's in the clouds, it's going to fall back onto the soil. And once back to the soil, what's going to happen to it? That water is going to get pulled by gravity, and it's just going to sink down into the below the ground through infiltration, and that's going to cause it to become part of. So it's going to become part of, after it sinks down into the ground, it's going to become part of the groundwater, which is the water underneath the surface of the ground. And from there, it's going to find its way through the ground. It's going to run down a hill, and it's eventually going to trickle out into a lake. And that lake is going to be where we end this water cycle.